Rugby League from Wakefield. Leeds Rhinos have defended their crown.
And what a moment for Halifax Rugby League.
Austin is through and Warrington dominating. Great try for the Robins. Huddersfield Giants take the points home. It's Vincent! It's a poor lad. That is one sensational try.
Look out with a drop goal. Leeds gather round in jubilation.
It's hit the post. It's Wellesby. Wellesby might have got the try. St Helens are champions once again.
Good evening, welcome to the last tackle, our weekly rugby league show here on Betfred. And after a weekend of some tasty action, there's been some juicy stories running the mill as well today. Delighted to join to go through it all, Paul Wood and Eorl Crabtree. And gents, there's nowhere else to start, is there, apart from the news that broke this morning. George Williams, Earl, released by the Canberra Raiders. Obviously, he's set to come back to the Super League. He said he's homesick. Wigan the obvious choice?
It's a week of controversy, isn't it? It's a strange one, simply because you get two different sort of announcements, one by Canberra Raiders themselves, and then obviously George Williams, who's not happy. And that's where the sort of conflict starts, and that's where it gets a little bit tasty as well, because he's not quite happy with the way that things have been done. And obviously Canberra have done it in their own way. Now, Warrington are probably one of the favourites as well as Wigan, but Wigan are probably the overriding favourites just simply because of the history there. They want him back as well, back at home. We know he's been homesick, but it's just the way that it's been done, which is the controversial part of all this. He's a great player though, an absolute talent. It'd be great to get him back in Super League, but who will he go to?
Woody, sometimes when a player's head goes and he decides that he wants out, it's just best, isn't it, to get it done? Yeah,
my opinion is, if George wants to come back to the UK, then, Canberra, need to honour that. The beauty of social media today is that, Canberra have put one announcement out and George Williams has come back, and like Earl says, it's a bit contradictory. But, it will be good to see him back in Super League. I think the issue is who's got the salary cap space now at this time of the year, so we could potentially see some players being offloaded to other clubs, some players may potentially just being paid out and released. So, some interesting times in Super League over the next couple of weeks to see what happens to resolve this.
We see this kind of musical chairs with players every now and then, but it's not often that it's an international standard halfback that we're talking about here. He's almost definitely going to be in that England team, isn't it, at the end of the season for the World Cup. So Wigan, as you've said, Warrington, as you've said, there's plenty of rumours about Blake Austin not being there. So could we see him get moved on early, perhaps, at Warrington to accommodate George?
I'd have thought so, yeah. There's no reason why he couldn't do it. It's something that's obviously been on the cards, and now this is an open market almost for him as well. Canberra have probably done themselves a favour by putting it out there, maybe not in the correct way, the correct manner, but it now puts him in the market, open market. There's teams to go for it, and teams like to spend as well. And we talked about Leeds as a potential one as well. Now, would they spend that sort of money on a player of his calibre? It's not really been their ethos. They've brought players through. So for me, I doubt it'd be somewhere like that. But Warrington and Wigan are two big spenders that will have a go at it. Obviously, Wigan are the favourites, but Warrington, they are willing to throw money around for the big players, the big stars, and Blake Austin going would be a perfect scenario.
And let's be clear, Paul, this isn't a case of an English player that's gone over to Australia and not cut it. George has been over there and had a real good crack and given a good account of himself. Whoever he comes back to is going to get a player who's been in good form for the last year and a half. Yeah, I think
personally, George Williams' game suits the NRL. He's absolutely flourished over there, and like you say, he's not been average. They've been talking about a world-class halfback in the NRL. So he's going to have to, prove himself again once he comes back over here. So it'd be interesting to see which team he goes to. I think it's a difficult one for Warrington at the moment because they left Blake Austin out of selection, and since he's come back in, he's hit some really good form, and so has Gareth Winnop as well. So they've got a combination of halfbacks there who are playing particularly well. So there's a lot of big decisions to be made around George Williams. But like I said, he's world class. He's an international halfback. Interesting to see where he's going to end up.
Well, Wigan, of course, the last remaining Betfred Super League team with an unbeaten record next to their name this season. So let's take a look at how they got on against Salford and the rest of the action from this weekend's games.
Had that stolen and Harvey Levesque now gets a chance to get the legs free. Harvey Levesque, can he get away from Hastings? He can! And Salford, can he keep his feet? He can! Great chase back, but Levesque gets there! Powell jumps into dummy half, gets it to Singleton. Singleton's away, and Singleton scored. He's reached the gap, gets away from Hastings, flicks it out the back door to Lola Haya, long ball, finds Wells. Wells, he's through a big gap. Jack Wells, what an impact! Come off the feet into Smith, and here's another foot race on now. And Smith's away. And this is Harry Smith down this right-hand side. Can Morgan Escaré get back to him? Escaré's fallen over. Here comes Ken Seo. He's got round Seo. Escaré for a second time, he gets away. Smith, long pass, finds Farrell. Farrell for the corner. And Wigan are going to go the length of the field. It's back with Jackson Hastings. Hastings with the attempt. And Hastings has put the drop goal over.
They rushed at him and he's got some space on the short side. Here they come with Liam Kay. Plenty to cheer from a Wakefield perspective. Ashurst. Oh, Tupou's gone on the outside. He's got Kay outside him. Finds the pass to Kay. Wow. Kay was screeching. Trent Kiwi. And in a circle there, and he's chucked it straight to Tino Arona. He's being roared home. He's got Mason Lino for support. What a head explosion that was. He got his side, a quick play the ball. Miller. Now Ashurst again, injects some pace, lovely hands, Tupou, can he put Kay away, can he put Jared away, can he go himself here, Jacob Miller!
Oh, here's McShane, straight through the gap, he's got support either side of him, from Truman, and Truman will score under the post! Whittam now, and Curry round the back door, and here is Charlie, is it going to be that moment for Toby King? And they have gone back to back, Charlie and King, 2 tries in 3 minutes. And the Warrington Wolves hit the front. The first drive, Richardson now and Truman. Good hands here on that far side, and that should be a try in the corner for... They're going to Jake Mamo then. Mamo always dangerous with ball in hand, and they're going off to Jake Mamo again. There's Winnett with a dummy. Winnett will go for the line, and Winnett will stretch over and score. Austin. Winnett again. Ratford through the gap, he's got support inside from Winnett. Winnett's got the legs, Winnett's got the pace. He's on the last and they've run it, and Austin now, he's got Winnett inside him. Winnett goes for the hat-trick, and Winnett gets the hat-trick.
His path to make the tackle. Sutcliffe down, Sutcliffe, can he stretch it? Sneed now, Sneed, Connor quickly on, and Swift has a run-in for a try for Hull FC. An opportunity now, Josh Griffin is broken through. Swift is alongside him. Swift will get his second try of the game, and Hull making that look so simple. They come to this side now, and Connor directing operations. Griffin steps, and Griffin having created a try. And here's McIlorum, short pass to Drinkwater. On, bursting through is Maloney. And Saints will counter now, but they won't counter for long because they've dropped the ball. But Meakin picks it up. What a pass! What a pass to Farre! Drinkwater was trying to pinch that ball, short pass, and it was a good job. Still alive, says the referee. Catalan shifting this. Benjamin Julien!
Yeah, some big results there, of course. Leeds Centurions 6, Huddersfield 44. Wakefield getting their first win of the season, 28-12 against Hull KR. And Leeds, well, I mean, they knocked at the door for the entire second half against Hull FC, but came up short. Salford, so close but so far against Wigan. Warrington with a really good win against Cass. And we'll start, gents, with Catalans versus St Helens. Saints beaten away at Catalans, which is no disgrace these days, Earl. But St Helens, that 100% record is gone. It'd be interesting to see how they respond. They didn't look themselves, did they, for large parts of that game?
I'd be honest and say they looked utterly awful. It's one of the worst performances, especially the second half, that I've ever seen. You expect them to get themselves back into it, and at some points they did. They got themselves back in with Percival, especially with just some really good line running. But they really struggled throughout, dropping the ball all the time, making silly little mistakes. The good thing for them is the pressure's off. They have been beaten now. Sort of relax back into it and respond. And teams normally respond, especially with the quality that they have, and respond really positively. They'll go back out there now, I'd expect, and put in a really good, intense performance. I think they lost a little bit of intensity and ball security as much as anything. They just give so many errors away and just didn't really give themselves a chance. Now, Catalan were good for the money. They looked really good in parts, but even then, they were really challenged by St Helens, who I thought were just a mile off.
And Paul, we talk about Catalans over the last few years being a bit Jekyll and Hyde, inconsistent, struggle away from home. I think we kind of have to throw all those cliches out the window now, because this season they look like the real deal.
Yeah, definitely. I've always rated Catalans. They've always been, ever since they come into Super League, no matter who's coached them, they've thrown the ball about. They play some really nice football. But I think what they did really well against St Helens is they dominated the forwards. St Helens have got a big forward pack. Once they get on that front foot and James Roby starts jumping out of that dummy half, they've got the quality in the backs to score tries. So I think there was an element to that where, for me, Catalan forced Saints to look ordinary, because Alex Wormsley, they dominated him. Amor, they dominated him. Louis McCarthy-Scarsbrook. So I think that they're the real deal this year, Catalan. I think that, again, that consistency, Steve McNamara's doing a great job with them. They've got some nice footballers, but they've got some tough forwards in the middle. So they have got the ingredients to be a quality team this year and to, upset some big teams like they have done against St Helens. But, potentially Grand Final, Challenge Cup, you never know.
And Earl, your boys, Huddersfield, it was a slow start, but it's starting to click, isn't it?
Yeah, it's taken a little bit of time, and I think Ian Watson sort of found his players, his team, and I think that comes with the transitional period as well. He's got to get into the team, and you see players performing in training, as we've seen before, pre-season, where the lads are ripping it up. When it gets to the games, they struggle a bit more. So they get that opportunity early doors, whereas I think now the players that are playing well are starting to come through. They're starting to hit a bit of form, and also it helps when you don't have as many injuries. I think we've only got 1 or 2 now injured, and they'll be back as well very shortly. So we've got some stars in the making, and for me, Lee they're just far away at the moment. They're really struggling, and this comes with confidence. They've still got the ability. We've seen that in the early games as well, but when you start losing confidence, it makes it more difficult, and you need to make some changes to a certain degree to try and get some wins, build confidence and that word momentum, and unfortunately it's going in the wrong direction at the moment. So Lee have got some changes probably to make, and whether it's simple ones, but I think they need to work hard for each other. Ultimately, building that culture of working hard for each other is what wins games.
So difficult for Lee, isn't it, Paul? They came in obviously very quite last minute decision to move them into the Super League. They've got quite a small squad. On top of that, they've been hammered with injuries early doors. But is it, as I just said then, I guess it is just little changes at this point, isn't it? Just small steps forward, and hopefully for them then they'll get that first win, and what 1 might become 2 and then 3.
Yeah, confidence is a big thing in this sport, and the unfortunate thing with Lee at the minute is they're getting beat by heavy scores. They was on the back foot before they came in. They was preparing for a championship season, and they got propelled into Super League. So they're on the back foot. Whether they lack a little bit of leadership in the coaching side, quite inexperienced Super League coach in John Duffy. He's a great coach, but is it a step too much? Do they need to bring somebody in around the coaching staff to help develop the players? Because even though they're light on the squad, I still think they've got some decent quality players within there, but they just need to get the best out of them. So, if I was Derek Bowman, I'd be looking to maybe add around that area more than the players. But Anthony Gelling's come in, not played for what? Has he not played for 3 months? Come in and probably been the best player. He was man of the match the other week against Wigan. So, for me, they need to probably have a look at bringing somebody in on the staff element and getting the best out of those players.
When we talk about, it's a bit of a cliche, we talk about winning being a habit, is losing a habit as well?
Yeah, it does, of course it does. Like I say, confidence is a big thing. And again, if we look at Lee, it's not a case of getting beat by 1 try or 2 tries each week. They're getting beat by 30 and 40 points, and that becomes very detrimental. first game of the Super League season, they was up for it, local derby against Wigan, but I believe that game took a lot out of them, emotionally and physically. So, they do need a big win, but to win games, you've got to work hard. That becomes an habit, and then you start winning, that becomes an habit.
Moving on to Warrington versus Cass, two teams that on the whole have started pretty well this season. Warrington will be very pleased to pick up the win there, won't they?
I think so. I think it was a really good performance by them, and we're saying about Blake Austin and Widdop especially really kicking on now. They've got a great forward pack, they work hard for each other and they're dangerous with the ball in hand. They're just one of those teams that can score from absolutely anywhere. Castleford, a lot of injuries, they're out of form. I've seen them struggle a few times throughout the season, really competing, and we talked about Lee before, but Castleford as well, to a certain degree, are not willing to get into the arm wrestles for long enough. And the arm wrestle is just completing sets, tackling and getting to the end of the sets and putting decent kicks. Castleford have struggled with that a little bit, making really bad errors in certain areas of the field, which puts them under pressure. Against a team like Warrington, for instance, you just can't do that. It's cardinal sin, and you give away errors and penalties, and then suddenly you find yourself a few tries behind. And when they get their confidence and start marching forward, they're just so hard to stop, and any team is when they start building that confidence.
Port Warrington, obviously a club that a big part of your life. I think the interesting thing with them this season is that a couple of years ago they started like a house on fire. Blake Austin got injured and the wheels came off a bit. Last season they came back from the lockdown break like a house on fire and then tailed away a bit, whereas this year they've not quite found that top performance level, but they've been more consistent, haven't they, across those 7-8 games that we've played.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Warrington because they've announced that Steve Price is leaving early, Lee Breers is leaving as well, and I think since that announcement it's relaxed the team a little bit. It looks like they're playing they seem more relaxed when they're playing rugby. A little bit more. They've been quite structured over the last couple of seasons. I know Steve Price is big into his structure. He likes to play a kicking game and a completion rate. But what we're seeing this week was, playing a little bit more expansive, and Blake Austin, Gareth Widdop showing, because let's be honest, they've come over and not lit Super League up like they was expected to do. But the game at the weekend, they certainly did that. Gareth Widdop with 3 tries, that's a massive effort. But, Castleford, I've spoke to a few of the Warrington players and they've accepted that Castleford are a bit depleted on numbers, so they're not getting carried away with that. But Warrington do look like they're going to find some form, and it's always our year, that's the saying at Warrington, and it's not how you start the season, it's how you finish the year. So sometimes it's not too, you don't need to get too concerned about how you're playing this time of year. It's coming towards the back end of the season, like we've seen years ago with Leeds Rhinos. How often did they do it? They peaked at the right time and won the grand final. So I don't think Warrington have got anything to worry about yet. They just need to probably stay relaxed, play to the potential like they are doing, and take a little bit of pressure off them, which I feel that will happen now with this announcement about Steve Price. They can relax a bit, everything's out, and they can finish the year on a flourish.
And we'll just quickly skip through the rest of the games from the weekend. Wakefield versus Hull KR. Brilliant for Wakefield to get their first win of the season, Earl, but were you watching through your hands a little bit when Sean Kenny-Dow threw that offload and Arona went through to score? It was a bit of a howler, wasn't it?
It was, but Arona, I think he'll be happy with that. I've never had one of those balls given to me in a game, and played for quite some time, and I think the maximum distance I scored over was probably about 10 metres. I think that was one of my long-range tries. But on this occasion, the ball lands in his hands, and Sean Kenny-Dow, you just think, I kind of feel sorry for him, but what is he doing in that position? He's looking around, past the ball, miles back, and Arona catches it, and he looks like for a split second, like, what do I do? He turns, he runs, and he looks like he's running treacle at one point, but he gets there, he works hard, and gets to the line. It's a great try, but talk about making it hard for yourself, and it's a great win, the first win for Wakefield as well, and I think they'll be happy to get the 2 points and that one over the line, because that was a big one for them.
Paul, Leeds Hull FC, in that second half, the thing that struck me about that game was a confident Leeds would have won that game. They had all the ball, they were knocking on the door, they just couldn't finish and score points. They just looked like they didn't quite believe they were going to do it. Yeah,
I agree with you there. I think they did look like there was lacking confidence. I think the weather conditions played a major role in it as well. It's very difficult, I'm sure Earl will confirm, when that ball's wet, catching it clean and playing the nice rugby. It's probably not something you want to do. Leeds are an expansive team. They like to play football. Luke Gale, Richie Myler in there. They like to get the ball out wide. And they weren't clinical enough on the day, but you've got to credit Hull FC's defence. Both played with Odger, you know, the Hull FC coach, and he wasn't the biggest defender, but it surprises me that his mentality is about defence. It's about, you know, keeping those clean sheets, not letting your opposition in and scoring tries. He has made a big emphasis on defence, so I'm sure he will be delighted in how he made Leeds play at the weekend. But Leeds, I think, yeah, they're lacking some confidence. Again, you know, there's been a big influence on Sean Long as well. You know, he's come in on the coaching staff there. Spoke to a couple of the Leeds lads and they absolutely rave about him. They say, you know, his knowledge for the game and the things that he sees is outstanding. But were there the conditions that Leeds suited at the weekend? Probably not. I'm sure we'll see a different Leeds side once the conditions start drying up a little bit, and they may want to have a look at, you know, the game plans once the conditions start getting a little bit damper again towards the end of the year.
And just lastly, on the weekend, Wigan Warriors have become the masters of winning ugly again, haven't they?
Yeah, and that's what they do so well, and that's how they win grand finals. They're always there or thereabouts, and they've got that sort of side to their game. They can win ugly, they win the battles, the challenges, and they'll go right to the wire to do that as well. And this is why they're so dangerous. You know, it doesn't matter what sort of game they're playing, even when they're not quite on song. They still know how to battle it out, and I think that is something that you can't teach. You know, this comes with this culture of working hard for each other, no matter what, not giving in, even when it's not really your day, but making sure you find a way to win. Ultimately, that's what you've got to do as a team, find a way to win. Such as Lee again, I go back to them, you've got to find a way. It doesn't matter, and you can't feel sorry for yourself and actually just worry about all the mistakes that you're making. You've got to find a way to get through that, get through the other side, and have a desire to work hard for each other to actually get the win. Brad Singleton, we talked about it before, you know, it's good to see a prop just doing the hard yards and scoring tries from that sort of range. We don't all get the ball thrown into our hands from long distance. He had to work for those close to the line, but he just showed a desire to get over the line, and that's what it's all about.
But Paul, we spoke about Huddersfield starting to click, but actually, despite the recent results, Salford look like they're just starting to work out how to play under Richard Marshall, don't they?
Yeah, and I felt sorry for Salford, you know, because it was leading for the majority of that game. You know, you go to 60 minutes and they're winning 14-4, and at that point you think Salford are going to get the first victory, but, you know, anybody but Jackson Hastings, you know, kicks the drop goal and creates misery for them. But, you know, I believe that Salford will get some good wins this season. My only thing with the losses and the manner of that loss is, and I went back to Lee at the beginning of the year against Wigan, when you're losing by 1 point and you've put a massive effort in that weekend, there's always an emotional effect to that and a physical effect. So next week, I think Salford, you know, will they struggle against Warrington, because emotionally that Wigan games took so much out of them. So hopefully Richie Marshall recognises that, and you know, he can prepare them this week and build the confidence back up. But, you know, Salford, they'll have some good wins this year. You know, they look like they was defending really, really hard against Wigan. You know, Wigan are no mugs, but like Earl said, they can win ugly, and sometimes that's what you've got to do. You've just got to roll your sleeves up, take the ball in as hard as you can, and, you know, and let the prop forwards do the magic.
Got some big headlines in the Betfred Super League this weekend, but some big news as well coming out of the Betfred Championship, and it's been quite a long decade and a half or so for the Bradford Bulls, it's safe to say, but some good news for them at last. They are back at Oddsall, their iconic home, one of the spiritual homes of the game of rugby league, and I sat down with one of their legends, Leon Price, to get his thoughts on their return. Leon, good news really, isn't it, that Oddsall is a rugby league stadium again. You'll have so many special memories of what on its day when it's full is a very, very good place to watch rugby league.
Yeah, we've got lots of good memories of winning Challenge Cups and Super Leagues. I'm not sure if Matt's seen Halifax do that in his lifetime, have you, Matt? Being a Halifax boy? Our local rivals.
Yeah, no comment.
Yeah, but all joking aside, yeah, it's Bradford's, you know, well, I wouldn't say it's a home rugby league, but, you know, it's got the attendance, the highest attendance for a rugby league fixture or sporting fixture. That massive attendance. It's a stadium that we all love to go to. Well, I do anyway. I live 5 minutes abroad, so yeah, we need Bradford. We need a strong Bradford, and it's no good with them playing over at Dewsbury. It's not fair on the fans. It's not fair on the local people. Myself, I'd like to take my son down there on a Sunday afternoon and watch a game at your own leisure, just and have a walk down and, you know, go into the pub locally and have a whatever you do on a Sunday. But having to drive half an hour down the road to watch your local team play is just, it's just not on really. Especially a team of Bradford's calibre that's won Super Leagues and Challenge Cups and World Club challenges over the last 20 years and being one of the most successful teams in the Super League era. You know, for me, it's a sign of progression that we're going back to Odsal.
It's a unique stadium just in its design, that kind of built into the ground, so to speak. And when we talk about kind of those early days of Super League and what that place was like, you speak to Eddie Hemmings, he describes it as a West End show. If we can get back to that, it'd be incredible, wouldn't it?
It's hard to say, being from Halifax, but everything that Bullmania was is what Super League should be. It was incredible, really.
Amazing.
That carnival atmosphere. It was an event, wasn't it? Going to Odsal was an event. It wasn't. You weren't going to a match. You were going for a night out, a day out. It was an event. We need more of that. In terms of Bradford going back to Odsal, it's a significant step, but the first, I hope, of a number of steps that need to be made to build the trust back up of the fans. Because the people I feel sorry for in the last decade, 12 years, however long it's been, have been the Bradford Bulls fans, because they've been lied to, they've been taken down the garden path effectively, and they don't deserve that. They don't deserve to have experienced what they have done. So I hope that this is the start of things, of a brighter future for the Bulls. I don't think anyone can deny a strong Bradford Bulls is good for rugby league. You only have to see where rugby league was at when they were good. I hope that proves to be the case. They've got some work to do. Look, the ground, I've seen that it's had a bit of restoration, which it needed.
A lot of restoration.
And it needed it, which is good. It will be great to see fans back in. I hope now that this is Bradford. They've gone to the bottom effectively, having to go to Dewsbury. No disrespect to Dewsbury, it's nothing to do with them. And now they can start climbing, stabilise, and eventually one day get close to or emulate what they were all those years back.
Leon, your favourite memory at that place?
We played against Leeds Rhinos in 1999, and it was built up all week. Both teams were going pretty well. I was only 17 at the time, and we beat them back with a Mick Withers drop goal. I think the attendance were 24,000. It was absolutely packed to the rafters, and to beat your local rivals. And we don't like Leeds. If you're proper Bradfordian, you don't like Leeds, and to beat them in last minute with a drop goal was just so sweet.
Well, it's good to see the Bulls back at their spiritual home, their rightful home, Odsal Stadium. Yeah, some fantastic memories for Leon at Bradford. I'd imagine it was probably quite different for you two, especially playing for a Yorkshire club, though.
Yeah, my memories are probably slightly different to Leon's there. And obviously, first of all, it's absolutely fantastic to see them back there. And obviously, the history that it's got as that stadium. And you see the images of years ago of 100,000 people sort of in the stadium, around the stadium. It's iconic in its own right. And there's probably some question marks over how this has come about, and suddenly now it's viable as a way forward for Bradford Bulls, which I hope is viable. I hope it's done in the right way, and hopefully this is here to stay and there's no more issues going forward, because unfortunately there has been issues in the past financially as much as anything else. But my memory is walking out, playing at Odsal and walking out to Jamie Peacock, Paul Anderson, Joe Wagner, Tavita Vicona, Leslie Vinacolo, Shantae Happy. Yeah, they're not as positive as Leon's, to be honest with you, and getting run over the top of by Stuart Field and yeah, those are my memories. But do you know what? I could never forget them, and they are positive in a strange way, because that is where I went into battle for the first few times as a young sort of 19, 20-year-old. Yeah, tough times, but that was my introduction to Super League. And I look at the teams now, and do you know what? I don't think they get that opportunity to walk out in Odsal in front of those absolutely world-renowned stars and get run over the top of. So the game's changed a little bit. Those were my heroes at the same time, and I'll never ever forget that. And I see it as it was an honour and a privilege.
But Paul, whether you're a Bradford fan or not, it is a historic club, Bradford Northern, and then the Bulls. And Odsal is such a big part of that history. It's just a big hole in the ground, really, but it's a very famous and intimidating hole in the ground sometimes. You must have had some interesting experiences there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I got sweaty palms when Earl was just ramming through the team sheet there, you know, playing against Bradford, you know, such big, ferocious team, and they had the atmosphere around it. But do you know what? Odsal even though it was a really difficult place to go and to beat Bradford, it was such a great ground to play in front of. And like Earl said, you know, these players were the pinnacle of rugby league, you know, especially from the early 2000s up to 2006. The players, you know, they were world class and they was winning everything, and it was a great challenge to go out there and to play. But I love the atmosphere. I mean, it is completely different today. If you went back 15 years and you go to Huddersfield, and especially when Leeds and Bradford played and you watched it on Sky TV, then, you know, you've got a full packed atmosphere, and it's absolutely amazing. Warrington, fortunately, always took good crowds down to Bradford, so the atmosphere was great. But I always fully enjoyed Huddersfield, and I think that, you know, for the Bradford team to be back there is a great moment. It's an old ground, but it's still a magical place to go, and whether you're playing or watching rugby league.
Right, gents, touchy subject time. Plenty of conversation in the last week about academies. There's been an announcement, 10 elite academy statuses have been awarded. There's been some big clubs that have missed out, Bradford being one of them, Holkar another. Earl, this is one of those that on the face of it looks a bit alarming, but it's not cut and dry, this decision, is it?
No, not in any sense, to be honest with you. And obviously there's been a massive response as well, and mostly negative towards the RFL. It's understandable that there's a lot of emotion in this at the moment. It's something that people are not happy with. But I think it's right to sit back sometimes and just look from the outside in, not getting caught too much in the emotion of it and actually trying to look at the details of it. Have we got the full details? I don't really think so. Every team has to put in, every club has to put in this big application, and the Huddersfield Giants, for instance, is something they've been working on for quite some time, and it's about 100 pages long with different criteria, whether it be education, whether it be facilities, welfare, things like that. All this has to be covered by the team. Now, I think it'd be good if the RFL could give us an indication of why these teams have failed, what criteria have they failed on, and then we'd have to go back to the clubs and actually look at, did they actually apply in the right way? Did they actually tick these boxes? Did they feel like they did? At the same time, appeals process, there's got to be an opportunity. I know that the teams are meeting with the RFL to discuss these matters, because reapplying again in 2024 is a long way away. And it doesn't mean the clubs don't have an academy. It just means they're in a different setup. They're playing against colleges. Yes, I do see massive issues with that on a personal level. Suddenly you've gone from an elite status to what feels like nothing. There is nothing in between. There doesn't feel like there's support there. I see different issues with this, but fundamentally, we have to do the right thing by the sport, by the players, and we have to probably look at the RFL and the clubs to see that they are doing this at the same time. At the moment, I think we have limited information about what's actually happened and what's gone on. It will come to light, I have no doubt about that, and hopefully, these teams can put something in place where they can become back to elite status. We can't afford players to go missing and to go to other teams because they haven't got the opportunity at the team that they want to play for. So yeah, I see quite a few problems at the moment, but something that can be readdressed.
The thing with this is, Paul, is that all of us want as many academies producing as many high quality rugby league players in this country as possible, and the RFL are included in that 100%. It comes down to the amount of kids that are coming through community clubs, and there's also a financial element to it as well. You can't ignore those issues, and they're not issues that rugby league's facing alone. All sport is facing the same things. It isn't just the case anymore like it might have been 20, 25 years ago, where you're competing for players from other clubs. You're competing with all sorts of things in life now. There's so many other things that are pulling from that talent pool. It's hard, isn't it, to keep players on that pathway?
Yeah, definitely. You know, myself and Earl come through the academy systems, myself at Warrington and Earl at Huddersfield, so you know, we're big advocates for the academy setups. But you're right in terms of, you know, we don't have the gene pool to facilitate all those academies now. I've seen the backlash over social media about people's response to the news of the academies, and I refuse to comment on it until I know the actual facts of why people have been refused academies on it. But, you know, my own opinion and personally, I would like to see academies how it was when we was playing. Each Super League club produces an academy, and to see those academies playing curtain raisers as well, it gives the kids something to aspire to. You know, there was nothing better than playing in an academy curtain raiser before your first team. So the kids need goals, but it does need to be done proper. I mean, unfortunately, we're in a situation at the moment where we are losing a lot of kids to rugby league, and if they're not making it from the academy setup, they aren't going back to the amateur clubs, and we're losing those kids forever. Well, we know from experience, you know, the likes of Chris Hill and the likes of Sean Lunt, late developers, you know, these kids are only getting signed up when they're in the 20s, 21, 22. So if a kid jacks in when he's 16, 17 or 18, who's to say that that's not a future, you know, Great Britain or England international? We'll never know because we're losing them to the game. So the structure does need looking at. I haven't got the answers for it. I'd like to know why these clubs have been, you know, pushed to the side and said you're not elite anymore. Be good to see the criteria, but being involved in the Warrington Academy now as assistant coach, I know that the process is a very difficult process. And Warrington have had an academy since day dot. You know, and they've got the great facilities. They've got, you know, the kids playing into the first team as well. So they're producing the goods. But it was a big process for them to still get accepted into that elite status. So, you know, there's got to be some answers. Someone's got to come out from the rugby league now, give us some answers and say, this is the reason, we've made our decisions, and then everyone can get some transparency on it.
Yeah, I think this is a story that's going to rumble on for some time. It's not going to go away. So let's have a look at this weekend's Betfred Super League action. We start off Thursday night, Earl, Salford versus Warrington. Warrington will be pretty high on confidence. Salford might be quite low on confidence after coming so close against Wigan, but they are at home, and maybe this is the game. We said that they're improving. Maybe this is the one where they do get over the line.
Possibly, and it's one of those games, as Woody spoke about before, is exactly right, the emotional side of it. And it's something that we probably don't speak a lot about in rugby league. We're all about performance and how fit you are and how strong you are, but there's a different side to you as well. The emotional side, the mental side of the game as well. Now, this is important for Salford to actually still believe in the systems and the structures that they've got in place, working hard for each other and actually believing if they get into the arm wrestle, push Warrington hard, because Warrington still make mistakes, they still find themselves in difficult positions where they're put under pressure. Now, it's up to Salford to make sure they start big, start well, believe in what they're doing and believe in themselves as well. They can beat any team, they really can. They're an absolutely quality outfit, and for me, personally, I think the league is getting closer in some regards. St Helens have been the standout, and they will be for the time being. Catalan are just absolutely quality stars all over the place and can challenge people, but still have their moments, and I think everybody else does as well. I think they can all be beaten and they can all win.
Woody, big opportunity for Warrington to make a statement after that win against Cass, to back it up with a potentially big win against Salford as well.
Yeah, I can see Warrington personally winning that game. I think that, you know, like I said earlier, they seem more relaxed at the minute. They seem confident when they're playing with the ball, but like Earl said, there's still some mistakes in there that can cost them. We've seen that against Huddersfield the previous week when they got beat. So, you know, I think that Warrington are in a great position at the moment where their confidence is high. I think Salford's maybe a little bit low, so they've got an opportunity now to set a standard, set a statement to Super League. You know, they could blow Salford out the water, but Richie Marshall, ex-Warrington coach, was at Warrington when I was there. We'll have some inside information there, so maybe that's something that he can play into his advantage. Rate Richie Marshall highly as a coach, so you know, I think it's going to be, it could be a tough game, but I would choose Warrington on that one.
Cass versus Leeds on Friday night, Paul. Does this one come down to who's got the most left in the tank after those defeats?
I think, yeah, I think Leeds are going to put a few things right there. I think, you know, when we spoke about the weather conditions against Hull and the game plan not being right, I just think this week they'll adapt a few things. Castleford are quite depleted with injuries, and I think that'll play into Leeds' favour. I know Leeds have not got it their own way with injuries, but I think they're possibly the strongest squad. I think the likes of Luke Gale and Richie Myler linking up creates big problems with the football. I think that if they tighten up a little bit Leeds in defence, that, you know, they'll have a good chance of turning Castleford over this week. But I think Castleford, I rate them highly. I just think that they've got too many injuries at the moment to maybe deal with Leeds.
And also Friday night, live on Sky, probably the game of the round, this one, St Helens versus Hull FC. This should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is the game of the weekend, as it were. Hull FC, as we talked about before, they just basically defended for a full half against Leeds, and they'll grown in confidence. You could see the reaction, and we celebrate small wins in rugby league, not just the tries, the small wins where you drag people into touch, you hold somebody up over the line, as in the Briscoe case. And you're growing from that. You actually enjoy doing what you're doing. You could see them with a smile on their face, working so hard for each other. They'll taken a lot out of that. And I believe they go into the game probably with a little bit more confidence. And St Helens suddenly realise they're vulnerable and they can be beaten. So they lose that sort of armour that they've had, that fact that they can't be defeated. Nobody can get over the top of them, but they find themselves in a position where actually we need to be on our game. And Hull are that team that could actually put them away. So I'm looking forward to this one. It's different sort of emotion again. These two teams that really want to challenge each other and prove that they're best in Super League. I love what Hull FC have done this year. I really do. I believe they are something special under Brett Hodgson. And I've seen a marked improvement in them. St Helens, we just know what to expect from them. They will react. They will react in a positive way. This is going to be a battle.
There'll be Wigan fans watching this lynching me for saying that was a tie of the round, because, Woody, their game against Catalans as well looks a pretty tasty one too.
Yeah, it will be, and there's a couple of ex-Wigan players who's playing for Catalan who'll want to prove a point. I think Mickey McAlorum in the Catalans team, I just think he makes such a big difference when he plays for them. He adds a little bit of steel in the middle. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one because the Wigan forwards, they've got some tough young kids coming through. You can see that Sean Wayne influence in some of the young kids that are coming through. They don't want to take a backwards step. They will not be dominated. They will not be bullied. But neither will Catalans. So we could see fire with fire here. But there's skill in the backs as well. That's the beauty of the game. For me, Wigan and Catalans got all the ingredients of being a great game. I think I'd take Wigan on that one. I think I will take Wigan because Earl alluded to it earlier, is that they know how to win ugly. You know, they don't have to win by throwing the ball out wide and somebody going through untouched. They'll actually do it the tough way. So hopefully we'll see the likes of Brad Singleton scoring 2 tries again this week.
And then on Sunday, Paul, Hull KR versus Lee. If Lee are to pull off the great escape, so to speak, this year and stay up, these are the games that they'll have circled as must win. Yeah,
I think this is a must-win game for Lee. Personally, I can see Hull KR winning it. I watched them against Wakefield, although they got beat. I love the way they play with the football. I do think they play really good. You know, Tony Smith loves playing with the ball. He loves playing off the cuff. They just need to learn to defend better, Hull KR, and they'll be quite a dominant team. You know, they'll be up there in the mid-table. But I just feel that, again, I can't see Lee winning this game. I've not seen anything over the last 5 or 6 weeks that can convince me that they can do the tough stuff. Just because of the score margins that they're getting beat by. Could be pleasantly surprised. You know, I'm not saying Lee can't win it. I just can't see them winning it. And I just think that the football that KR, I mean, against Wakefield, it would have been the try of the season. Unfortunately, there was only a couple of metres from scoring from the line, but they won the ball on the 5th play against Wakey, Ryan Hall hit a line, and they went from one side of the field to the other, 50 metres down the field, and I was in awe of how they played. So I love the way that Hull KR play. If they play like that against Lee Centurions, I think they'll blow them out of the water.
This is the thing, isn't it, Earl? I think Hull KR are becoming a lot of people's second team this season because sometimes, I mean, some of their games are just anarchy. Everything's going on. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to commentate on their game against Castleford only a couple of weeks ago, and they battled it out early doors. They made a few mistakes, but so did Cass. And then off the back of that, Jordan Abdul just was scanning the line. He was all over the place. Got man of the match in that game and scored the winning try in the last dying seconds. And these other star players around, and Sean Kenny Dowell, and obviously when he's not giving away bad offloads, but he's got some ability as well. Quinlan out the back looking so dangerous, and what they do is earn the right to play, and that's the difference within teams sometimes, is that you've got to work to earn it, if you know what I mean. You've got to earn passing the ball wide, to throw the ball around. Lee, for me, so far, haven't really done that. They've got to go forward first, win the ruck, win the battle in the middle of the field to be able to pass the ball wide and cause havoc on the edges. It's what Hull KR do really well. They've got some big boys in the middle that want to run hard, and then they've got some really good outside backs that like to run with the ball. So they are a dangerous team with ball in hand. Fix up a few of the issues that Woody talked about the defensive, issues that they've had, and you can see them going on and winning that game. It'll be a tough game for Lee again.
Huddersfield then, Earl. Wakefield this weekend. You must be pretty confident given the last couple of performances.
Oh yeah, I think we'll smash them. Do you know what? Every game you go into, it's always difficult. You can be complacent, and it's actually getting yourself up for a game. Now, you think that'd be easy, but it's not. It's every time you step onto the field, you've got to be at 100%. You've got to be willing to run into brick walls. And if you're not willing, instantly opposition realise that. They sense it, they can feel it. So I think the battle for Huddersfield is to make sure they keep starting big. And if they keep starting well, they'll carry it on throughout the games to really fit. Wakefield have got some quality though on the field. They want to work hard for each other, and they're desperate to beat teams now as well. Tough place to go is Wakefield, so it won't be an easy beat by no stretch of the imagination. Another battle, but another good game, I think. And Huddersfield, obviously, slightly biased, I expect to win.
Woody Wakefield, of course, back in the winner's circle at last. You talk about the emotional effect that losing has, but their training camp will be a different place this week as well, won't it?
Yeah, the win will have obviously propelled the confidence, massively there. And again, going back to the Hull KO versus Wakefield game, I just loved watching the game. I think Wakefield play some really nice football. They like to throw the ball around. For me, I can see Huddersfield winning. I think Kenny Edwards, Aidan Caesar, I think they're two of the main players at the minute that have, producing the goods in attack. But Huddersfield are a good defensive team as well. It's good to see McGilvray, scoring tries and making meters again, and he's found a bit of form. So I just think that Huddersfield will be a little bit too strong there for Wakefield. I think that'll be a great game. I think that'll be a great game. Two contrasting styles of football, which Ian Watson, he's quite conservative with his play, which is surprising because he was an halfback. But likes structure, likes completing sets, where Wakefield are quite the opposite. Throw the ball around and expect the best. So that could be a good game.
Well, that's the action to come this weekend in the Betfred Super League, and of course the semi-finals of the Betfred Challenge Cup are looming as well. But before those two semis, we'll have the final of the Betfred Women's Challenge Cup in that triple header at Lee as well. And we've got our finalists, so let's take a look at the highlights from the semi-finals.
They're defending really narrowly. There's a gap on the left, and that's where they're going to go now. Langan gets the ball away. Big chance here. Andre going for the line and will score. Peach looks left, gets it to Langan. Langan cuts back in, and Langan's gone straight through the middle, and Langan will score. We'll swing it to Langan. Langan comes across the field. Short pass taken by Sanderson. Sanderson offloads to Gentles. Gentles has got pace down the touchline. Only the fullback to beat. On the iPlayer, the red button, and the BBC Sport website. Here's Andrade running onto the ball now. Andrade's quick, and Andrade roads round the defence, looking for support on the inside. She's gone straight through Stanley, and Andrade looking to race 60 metres. The covering defence will not get back, and Savannah Andrade has got a second try. Ball going forward here. Andrade again, trying to go around the attack. He's down that sideline, looking for the hat-trick, sidesteps a full-back, and Andrade will go over. They're waiting on this near side. Here's Marshall now. Marshall with a dummy, the show and go. She's over the line, can she get the ball down? Ball on the ground, try given.
They had a 4-on-1 overlap and they just scrambled.
Going on the short, it could be Woozy, it could be the first try of the game. The referee says it is, and finally she gets her try for St Helens. The ball goes to Gaskin. And she finds a gap as well. Lovely dummy being sold, and there is that play that we've mentioned. Amy Hardcastle, a second try for St Helens in the space of just a couple of minutes, despite wearing that number 1 shirt. Crowell works a bit of run around with Rudge. She's got support out on that far side. Great break coming through here once again. It's Hardcastle. Hardcastle's going to go in. Her second try of the afternoon. Well, a break coming now from Leeds Rhinos.
Goldthorpe.
Could this be the first try for them this afternoon? It can. Frank Goldthorpe going in. Great skill from Frank Goldthorpe.
Everything she's got, but the timing is absolutely awesome.
So St Helens here's a gap then up the centre of the field. This could be the icing on the cake for Saints. Oh, beautifully taken by Carrie Roberts. She shrugs off the last attempt of a tackle, and that surely will be the try. Jones sends a pass out to Rudge through the hands of Gaskin in between time. And the referee, that's it, that is the whistle that blows. St Helens are through to the Women's Challenge Cup final, which will be at Leigh Sports Village on the 5th of June. You will be able to see coverage of that game on BBC Two, where they will meet York City Knights, who beat Castleford Tigers earlier this afternoon.
Gents, for rugby league fans on their sofa on a Saturday afternoon, pretty good, isn't it, to have that level of entertainment as well? The more rugby league we can watch, the better, and 2 fantastic games.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, we were just speaking about it before, actually. It's like the old school era. It's like watching it back when we fell in love with the game. You know, when it wasn't as scrutinised, as structured as it is now in the men's league, we actually watch this and see the tries from 60 metres out, see these athletes turning, fending off, big passes and stuff like that. It's fantastic to see. And we're talking about the fact that it's probably one of ours, if not the biggest asset to rugby league at the moment, the fastest growing sector of our game, and it's fantastic to see. And you know, for me, anyone who crosses that white line deserves credit, because it's a tough place to go. To walk over that white line and put your body on the line is tough, but to see the way these women are actually adapting to the game and the sort of the elite side of it, now it's an elite sport, and seeing more teams coming through is absolutely fantastic for the sport. And we need it to grow. We need the women's game to grow so we can grow as well. And I think we're all in this together, so more and more for me, and I love watching it.
And fantastic that we've got these games on the BBC. They were on the red button. The final will be on TV, you know, the big BBC, so to speak. And you know, look, hat-trick there, Andre for York. Some of those tries are absolutely fantastic. Some of the offloads that we're getting thrown around for, we'd be applauding it if John Bateman threw one of them.
Yeah, I'm massively in love with the women's game. I've watched quite a bit of it, and pre-pandemic I went watching Warrington versus Hull in the semi-final, and the Challenge Cup final was actually being played at Bolton Arena, and Castleford and Leeds was playing, and I thoroughly enjoyed that game more than I enjoyed watching the men's game. But it is great to see. I've been really impressed with the women's game. Just how they train, the structures that they have in place. I've got a couple of friends who coach. My old teammate Ben Westwood is the head coach of the Warrington Wolves team, and it's really impressive watching them train and the detail that they go into. It is just a real positive for our sport. You know, the bigger we can grow that, it's going to help the men's game as well. But like I say, I'm massively impressed with the women's game, and I'm fully enjoying watching it. And
anyone that is lucky enough to have a ticket to that triple header, those semi-finals, I mean, but they just need to get in the ground early, don't they, Earl? Because that York St Helens, Women's Challenge Cup final is as big a blockbuster as the 2 men's semi-finals after.
Possibly it'll be more entertaining, without a doubt, simply because of the way that they do score tries in these games. These are sort of a different playing field, or level playing field, with some of the teams at the moment, and some are struggling, but the fact that they're actually getting teams out there more so than they've ever done before, and they're being supported in a way that they've never been supported before, it actually gives hope for that game, the actual women's game, to just keep evolving, just keep getting bigger and better and stronger. But we should see some entertainment, should see some fantastic tries, and honestly, these girls rip into each other as well. You see the big hits, and you can hear them from the sideline as well, and that for us is kind of what it's all about. There's a beautiful rawness to what they're doing at the moment, and that is what we fell in love with as a sport. So for me, the women's game is sometimes, and quite a lot of times, a lot more entertaining than the men's game. But equally, they both need to succeed, and that is the probably most important part of any of this, is we want rugby league as a whole to succeed.
Well, we are quickly running out of time, but Woody, just quickly, we had you on the show a couple of weeks ago, Mental Health Awareness Week. You spoke about Rugby League Cares and the offload programme. I can't miss the opportunity with you in the studio to speak to you about it again, because the work that they do is, and that you do, is just fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. You know, the things that Rugby League Cares are doing at the moment in the community with the amateur game. I was over in Sheffield actually on Saturday speaking to the wheelchair rugby league team as well. And it is just promoting mental health. You know, it's just saying, you know, if you're struggling, guys, speak up. There's tools that you can use, and there's organisations that you can speak to. Look, some people get over issues and it doesn't affect them, mental health doesn't affect them, but there are people out there, you know, statistically 1 in 6 people will, you know, suffer with mental health issues. So generally we're speaking to a room of 30 people, you know, there's people in that room who it's going to affect. So it's not just talking to the people that it affects as well. You maybe have a family member, a work colleague, you know, you might recognise these things in somebody, and you can help them, potentially help them. Unfortunately, you know, I've lost people who have been close to me to suicide, and it's not a nice feeling. So if we can help those people, then, you know, it's job done from us. It's a big thing at the minute, it really is, but there's ways out for people as well.
Oh, it's great fun for us to sit here and talk about the Betfred Super League and go through all the games, but it's stuff like Rugby League Cares and Offload that are the things that make me really proud to be part of this sport. I'm sure you're the same.
Yeah, I've seen massive changes, not only in rugby league, but society as well, where we talk about mental health and it's more socially acceptable. And Woody comes through the same sort of era as me, where I don't think we'd have ever spoken about these things, but now we openly talk about the issues that some people have and the ways to get through those, these coping mechanisms and things like that. I think a lot of it's down to understanding yourself as much as anything else, because a lot of people have these feelings and thoughts and unfortunately don't quite understand them. It takes somebody like Woody here to actually speak to people and help people through this, and they're saving lives ultimately, and this is what it's all about. We can talk about rugby league all day long, but fundamentally we need to look after each other as well, and it's something that's been forgotten in the past, but now it's becoming so prominent and something that is so universally spoke about that we need to take action, and that's exactly what rugby league is doing.
Yeah, I think as a sport, one of the things we are really, really good at is how diverse we are and how we speak about our problems and mental health, and also come together as a community. You know, we've got wheelchair rugby, we've got men's rugby, we've got women's rugby. There's a whole different range of things that we do as a sport that is such a positive, not just in rugby league, but in society as a whole. You know, I know a lot of people who, you know, football fans, and they watch different sports, but they always comment about the community and the togetherness of rugby league. We do so many good things as a sport. I know we do a lot of criticising about the stuff on the field, but as a sport, we are such a diverse sport, and it's really great to see, and we help a lot of people. We help a lot of people in life, and there's a lot of positive stuff that we do as a sport.
Well, gents, we are running into overtime, but thank you both for joining us. I've really enjoyed going through all of the games. It's going to be another fantastic week in the Betfred Super League Championship, League One, Women's Super League, the community game. It's just fantastic to have it all back, isn't it? We'll leave you with the contenders, and there's a lot of good ones this week for the Try of the Week.
Hello and welcome to the Our League Try of the Week. I'm Dave Woods. Let's have a look at this week's contenders. First try this week comes from Bradford's win at London. Steve Crossley's quick play the ball, getting Bradford on the move. Wonderful break here from Joe Brown, and the inside pass for Brendan Pickersville to score the try. Liam Kay of Wakefield is in fantastic form of late. He scored a brace against Hull Kingston Rovers at the weekend, and this is one of them, a superb and typical acrobatic finish in the corner. Try 3 from St Helens' impressive Challenge Cup semi-final victory against Leeds, and this is just as impressive, Amy Hardcastle's run and finish as they dominated. She scored 2 tries in the match, this the eye-catcher. Savannah Andrade scored 3 tries in York's big win against Castleford, and you cannot help but be impressed by the speed, the power, the step, and the wonderful composure for this run by the side of the sticks. Try 5 is Toulouse against Swinton. Lateral Shomkel, the eventual scorer, but Joe Brotherton doing the initial damage here, just pulling in that Swinton defence. And just when you think you've seen enough quality for one day, look at this Tony Gigot pass. Misses at them all with that high hanging ball, and into the corner goes Shomkel. And finally, you want pace? We've got pace. Jamie Dallymore's chip and chase, and here comes T. Ritson with the afterburners. Get voting for your favourite.